SWAT Prepper here. Today I wanted to make a short video and talk about surviving the fallout, surviving the first 30 days or 15 days even, because that's when it's going to be at its worst, I think. That's when the initial shock is going to be evident and deplorable. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that today. I think it's going to be very different. I think the fallout, the ships falling, I think it's going to look a lot different than most people realize, than most people think, even preppers, and myself included. We've been conditioned by Hollywood and Disney and big cinema, all these big cinema corporations, that we all picture, well, I won't say we all, but most people picture, they think the fallout will look how it did in the movies. They think it'll play out how it did in the movies. They think everything will be fine one day, and then the next day you'll wake up and things will be very different. Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, that's not how it's gonna happen. I don't think. All indicators, all history points to that's not how it's gonna happen. That's Hollywood deliberately desensitizing you. That is big cinema deliberately desensitizing you, so that you won't be able to tell when it's actually starting. So be on guard for that. Keep an eye out. Keep a lookout. Just know, pay attention to your surroundings. Pay attention to, I know a lot of you aren't going to agree with this, but pay attention to the news. I'm not saying watch the news and listen to it, no. But even though I think the news is a big lying source, a big source of lies. If you want to hear your daily dose of lies, just go watch the news. Even though I think that's what the news is, you can still learn from it. Like I say, if the news is telling you one thing, then the opposite's probably happening. If the news is telling you everything is all right, then the likelihood is that everything is not all right. Now, surviving the fallout. The first 10, 15, 30 days are going to look very scary, very different. Because it's going to happen in a way that most people aren't going to expect. It's going to happen in a way that most people are generally unprepared for, even in the prepping community. We're unprepared for what might happen. So here's what I think. I think all this stuff is going to reach a point of an explosion. I think it's not going to be something where, okay, everyone knows everything has gone down. No. It will only look a certain way to us. It will only be us preppers and believers who know the chips have fallen. To the general public, to the cities, things might change a little bit, but not much. Nothing for them to really be concerned about. It will only be you who haven't taken this, who haven't bowed down to the big corporations, who are going to be actually destitute. The rest of the world will look just fine. It'll be just fine for everyone else. What do I mean by that? Here's what I mean. I mean that your common city dweller, your common liberal, your common right-wing individual isn't going to really be affected by what's coming. They will be affected. Generally, they'll be affected, but not much. Not like you will. Not like all of you. There's going to come a point when you'll have to make a decision. There's going to come a point where you're going to have to say yes or no, yay or nay. That decision will determine what life looks like for you. If you say yes, I believe life will continue on as it has been. I think life will be pretty easy for the common individual. But for those of us who will say no, who will say, I'm not going to live that life, I'm not going to get that mark, I'm not going to inject that into my body, that's when life will look down for you. That's when you'll be kicked out of society, for want of a better word. That's when they will say, if you don't want to abide, if you don't want to be a part of us, if you don't want to be a part of Babylon, of Sodom, of Gomorrah, then you're no longer welcome. And we'll do everything we can to make life miserable for you. So be prepared for that. Be prepared to endure a life of hardship, a life of burned sun skin, a life of solitude, a life of work, sweat, tears, all of that, because that's what's coming, and not for all of the world. So I want to touch on that fact about what everyone pictures and what the rest of the world will actually be like. Stop picturing a Mad Max world. Stop picturing a world of just riots and no one is happy. Don't picture that world. That's not how it's going to be. From what I've gathered from the Bible, from Matthew and Revelation, to me what it looks like is all the cities will still be fine. All of the common places will still be nice and fine. It'll only be out here in the country, out here away from everybody, that will be hard. And it will only be because you've chosen to live there. You won't be forced. It'll be a choice. Either you live out here, where life is hard, where they've burned down the forest, or live in the cities, but you'll have to take the mark. You have to live by their rules. Yeah, that's what it's going to be. Survive the fallout. Say no to the fallout. You have the choice. It sounds to me like a lot of people are saying you won't have a choice. You won't have a choice. That's the main theme I'm hearing. You won't have a choice. You won't have a decision. You will have a decision. The Bible makes that clear. You will have a choice. But for those of us that will say no, for those of us that will make the choice to live righteously, to live away from the common man, the common sinner, that's when it will be hard, and that's who it will be hard for. I think I'll touch on one more point, and then I'll leave the video. How to survive the fallout. How to survive that initial fear, that initial terror. Here's what I think. If you're not prepared enough, if you're not ready to do so, if you're not willing to live in a state of uncomfort, of hardness, of just just being miserable all the time, then you won't survive. You'll go to the city where things are easier. You'll give in. All the grit that you thought you had is going to be put to the test. Make sure you're willing to say no. Make sure that grit is hard enough. Make sure you've hardened yourself enough so that when the time comes, you won't just give in. I think we're going to get a storm here lately. Hopefully later on. I hope. But yeah, test yourself. Make sure you're that human. Make sure that you're that person. Make sure you're the hero of the story. The hero has to make hard choices sometimes. But make sure you're willing to make those choices. Make sure you can be the hero of the story. People are counting on you. People are counting on you. Because there are going to be people that had no idea. There are going to be those people that had no idea. But they don't want to live in the city. They don't want to be a part of that. They're going to come to you. Are you just going to turn them away? Are you going to say because you weren't as wise as me, you don't deserve to survive? What are you going to do? Think about that. People are counting on you. And most of all, he's counting on you. He's counting on you to make the right choices. He's counting on you to make the right decisions. He's counting on you to be wise. Wise as serpents, harmless as doves. Yeah. Alright, warriors. Take care. Stay out of the heat. Keep prepping. I'll see you in the line of battle.